Okay, so just to make sure, other than Intuit people, everybody can hear us. Jeremy, I see your chat, so you guys can hear now?
Yeah, we can hear you fine.
Okay, all right, thank you. Hi, everyone. So welcome to Argo community meeting. Today's agenda is to first demo Argo CD or Argo Continuous Delivery, which is our new open source project. And then we will open it up for Q&A and any feedback on any of the Argo projects. Also, we were really looking for some volunteers to demo Argo workflow usage. Nobody has volunteered, so next meeting, please, it would be awesome if one of you can demo like how you're using Argo workflows. We'll do a quick round of introduction, not like a long one, because Argo community is still new, so we just want to understand who all are using and attending. So I see a bunch of people from Intuit in the meeting, so I'll skip them. Any other people, any other companies, members joining? Just quickly, if you can do a hands up. I see a big...
Yeah, we're from Localytics.
Oh, okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, hi, this is Clemens. I'm a physicist working at CERN, the European Particle Physics Laboratory, and we're trying to use Argo for, in particular, even actually the workflows for reproducible physics analysis. I'm trying to explore if that's a good option.
Awesome.
Yeah. Hello, I'm Konstantin Zadorozhny. I'm joining from Adobe Ad Cloud.
Yes, we know you.
Yep.
Anybody else wants to speak up? Okay. Okay, we can just continue. Let me share my screen first. I'll do a 5-minute overview of Argo CD, and then Jesse will do a detailed demo. And with that, okay, I guess everybody can see. Can you see?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So all of you, most of you are familiar with all the different Argo open source projects. We started with Argo Workflow. Then we customized it a little bit and created Argo CI. Last month, we open sourced Argo Event thanks to the BlackRock team who contributed the first version of the code. And everybody is reviewing, and hopefully we'll get some more feedback. And then today we will discuss about Argo CD, our newest open source project. Most of the community members, as far as we know, are using Argo for ML or data-related tags and workflows, and some are using it for CI/CD pipelines. If there are other use cases, it would be awesome if you can talk about it on our Slack channel so that we understand. These are the people who actually open pull requests to list their company, whether they're contributors or users on Argo main page in the GitHub repo. It would be great if others also, when they're more comfortable, open a pull request to list themselves. That helps grow the community. So let's talk about Argo CD. What is Argo CD? It is a declarative continuous delivery solution for Kubernetes. The Intuit team, the Argo team at Intuit earlier this year, like a couple of months back, were tasked with delivering a continuous delivery service for deploying to Kubernetes continuously as a part of Intuit's modern SaaS platform initiative. We looked at a couple of solutions in the market, open source, and based on the following criteria. The first criteria we wanted is that it has to be Kubernetes native, because it was a continuous delivery service for deploying hundreds of services on Kubernetes. The next criteria was we wanted it to be declarative so that we can define the desired state in Git, and any changes to the desired state can do an automatic deployment. So we particularly loved CaseOnIt as our configuration management solution. So Argo CD is built on top of CaseOnIt. And when Jesse gives a demo, he'll explain why we really liked CaseOnIt. We wanted the CD solution to have a clear separation from our CI solution, and we'll explain why as well. And then we wanted some enterprise-friendly features because multiple teams will use this CD solution to deploy multiple services in parallel. So we wanted more audit trails, then security, single sign-on, RBAC, logging, etc. So given these features, we didn't find anything that suited our need, and so we decided to build something and then open source it. So how does Argo CD work? It works in two simple steps. You define your application and your different environments where your application will be deployed in Git repo. And then any change to your application configs will trigger deployment. So we'll call Argo Sync to deploy your app. So two simple steps. Argo CD can be called from any pipeline, whether we would love Argo to be called from Argo workflows, but it can be called from any Circle CI or Jenkins or any pipeline, or you can also invoke it from CLI or UI. With that, we will move to the demo. Jesse will first show a simple app, guestbook app, which comes actually with the CaseOnIt project. He will first show like how to define your app using CaseOnIt, and then he will trigger a change of the guestbook app, and then he will go into more complex application. Any questions so far? Can you guys hear us?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, you have to stop sharing for me.
Yeah.
Okay, so as Mukalika mentioned, we settled on CaseOnIt because one, we weren't trying to solve the problem of configuration management. We also didn't want a package management solution like Helm, since we're deploying SaaS services and we don't need to be packaging and distributing something to like an end user. What we really needed was just a deployment tool to deploy applications from some state in Git. And CaseOnIt has been doing a really good job of solving the configuration management problem for us, where we have many environments like a dev, pre-prod stage, and then prod, with subtle differences between those environments. Like maybe an AWS account number is different that you need to send to the app, TLS certificates, DB connection strings, etc. So I'll give a really high-level quick primer on CaseOnIt, so for those who don't know. So we actually have an example application repo for demo purposes. And in this repo, I have 4 apps. We'll go over the guestbook app really quick. So a CaseOnIt app is really just a directory structure, opinionated directory structure of how you organize your manifest and your environments. Here we have a components directory. This is where your manifest lives. And CaseOnIt supports YAML, JSON, JSONIT, which is a superset of JSON. And in their upcoming release, they'll be supporting Helm charts. You have an environments directory. This is where you put any type of customizations that you want to happen between environments. Like, let's say you want to add a sidecar in the prod environment, you would write some JSONIT inside the prod directory under the environments to customize it for that particular environment. And then finally, you have app.yaml, and this is kind of like the high-level description of your application and its environment. So in looking at the guestbook app, we have 3 environments, and they are going to 3 different namespaces. For demo purposes, we're deploying to the cluster that Argo CD is running in, but Argo CD actually supports deploying to external clusters.
That's a big feature.
Yeah.
It can deploy to multiple clusters at the same time.
So we'll be deploying this guestbook app via Argo CD. Okay, so the first thing you might notice is we have this single sign-in via GitHub. I haven't configured this Argo CD instance to sign in via GitHub, but it's actually implemented using Dex from CoreOS. So this actually allows Argo CD to integrate with all major forms of SSO, including OIDC providers like Google and Azure. You use SAML 2.0, LDAP, GitHub, LinkedIn. This one just happens to be configured with GitHub. So right now, any Argo project members can log into this this instance. Okay, so what I'll be doing is I'll be linking this the Git repository that I showed you just recently, and then we'll be creating the guestbook app from that repository. So the first thing you'll do is you'll connect the repository. Oh, I already have it connected, and we'll select my repo, and it's searching for all the CaseOnIt apps in that repository. I found the guestbook. We see that it has 3 environments. I will be choosing the default environment, deploying to the same cluster that Argo CD is running in. And this is just kind of a final review page to review where this app will be going. Okay, so so after we created it, we see that the app is in an out-of-sync state, and this simply means that it hasn't yet been deployed yet. The reason it's out of sync is because it's missing from the target environment. We have this view of all the components of your resources, and let's go ahead and sync this app. Okay, as you can see, the live state changes as they happen. We're actually streaming the resource state changes from the Kubernetes API server, and because of that, we are able to show the live changes as they happen. This tree view that I mentioned, as we get the resources associated with the application, we're able to reconstruct the parent-child relationship between these Kubernetes resources based on the ownership references that Kubernetes sets between the resources. So this pod we can see is owned by this replica set, which is owned by this deployment, which is owned by this application. And this comes in really handy when you're trying to debug like a failed deployment rollout, because you can kind of see the new replica sets coming and going, and which pods are associated with which replica set. Okay, so the guestbook app is running. So some of the UI features is that you can actually click on any one of these things. You can see the actual YAML, or in this case, you can see the JSON of that resource. We have live logs of pods, and also Kubernetes events associated with that resource. We'll go ahead now and make a Git change to upgrade this guestbook. So I'm going to go to my fork of the example app which I deployed to, and I'm going to change the guestbook version from 0.2 to 0.3. Okay. Okay, so what you see happen is that immediately the guestbook application state is now in a out of sync state. So I happen to configure my repository to send the webhook to Argo CD. That webhook was consumed. We refreshed, we did a reassessment of the sync state of this application, and we discovered, hey, we're out of sync with our tracking revision, which is head. And to visualize the difference, we see that the deployment is the one that's out of sync. So let's see what's happening with that resource. And so we do a JSON diff of the live state and the target desired state. And what this is showing us in red is that we want to be running 0.3, but we're not. And what's really running is 0.2. And this gives you just kind of like this continuous view of, am I running what I think I should be running? So let's get out of, let's correct this situation. I'm going to go ahead and sync again. Okay, so if you're familiar with Kubernetes deployments, you'll know that they'll when they do a rolling update, they'll create a second replica set of the new version of the deployment. Meanwhile, they'll keep around the old replica set as they do a rolling update of the pods. And something didn't go quite right here. We're now in a sync state, but we're not really healthy yet. And you can see this this blue icon is indicating that we're not fully healthy. And we get a little bit detailed message. And the help is saying, waiting for a rollout to finish, 1 old replicas are pending termination. And from this UI, you can see my new replica set pod has some kind of error. It's an error image pull. So going into the events, we can see the Kubernetes events associated with this pod, and we see that it's unable to pull this new version of guestbook from the registry. So I happen to know that there is no v0.3 version of the guestbook, which is the reason for this failure. So a little bit about the health. We have specific health checks for different types of resources. For all of the deployments type of resources, like deployments, replica sets, daemon sets, stateful sets, we have the same status as a kubectl rollout status command. And basically what that means is that the observed generation of that resource is matching what you want it to match, and you have the desired number of updated replicas. And for service and ingress objects, a health check is if your service is type load balancer, you have the actual external IP that has been assigned, or a host name. So let's get that out of this bad state. We have a rollback button. So looking at the history of this application, we saw that we were running the v0.2 version of guestbook up until 2 minutes ago. And let's go back to this version. So for the rollback, how the rollback works, for every application, we currently store the Git Commit SHA of the last 5 successful syncs. And so we'll just keep this kind of this tail of the last 5 successful syncs, just so that you have the facility to roll back. But really, when you want to, we can roll anywhere, because when you do a sync, you actually can specify a revision to sync 2, and this can be a Git commit SHA, it can be a branch, it can be a Git tag. Okay, so before I move on, I'd like to just actually stop here and answer any questions that people might have so far about Argo CD.
Anyone?
So I'm wondering, do you have an example of deploying a non-Kubernetes application right now? Like one of the, like our use case is we selected Argo over Concourse CI because we had a bunch of, we wanted to get more sophisticated with our deployment of some of our legacy applications, and they're not packaged as, they're not packaged to run on Kubernetes right now. They're like manipulating AWS auto-scaling groups. So how would, so basically how, I'm sorry?
So this CD solution is only for deploying to Kubernetes. And that is the reason why we made this separate from Argo workflows. You can continue using Argo workflows to deploy to whatever kind of environment. From Argo workflows, you can call Argo CD, or from any other pipeline, you can call Argo CD only when you want to deploy to Kubernetes.
I see.
So,
yeah. So, and even internally at Intuit, we're actually looking at using service catalog. Yeah, service catalog, which would allow us to orchestrate some of these kind of external type of resources, not Kubernetes native resources through service catalog, and that's one way. Like we also have this internal need to orchestrate external stuff, but we are looking at service catalog to allow us to define them as Kubernetes manifest, but allow these the service catalog to do the deployment for us.
Correct. So just we wanted to clarify, Argo workflows can use anything to do deployment using, say, for example, call kubectl deploy, whereas Argo CD can again be called by any pipeline. So we wanted to keep these two separate. Some people will use Argo workflows with Argo CD, but you can decide to use a different pipeline with Argo CD and Argo workflows with a different deployment tool.
So do you envision a future project that can kind of aggregate this, that can kind of aggregate the state across these things? Like one of our needs right now is while we're replatforming on top of Argo workflows is we're needing to write kind of like this dashboard view. We need something that's kind of keeping the state of all the moving pieces in the infrastructure. So if you can imagine, a few of our pipelines are using Argo CD, but a few other ones are using some other stuff. We don't really have any kind of aggregated view right now. Do you envision that becoming a thing in the project, or is that going to be built by teams themselves when they? Go ahead.
So for example, inside Intuit, we are thinking, for example, we need our holistic service view, and some of those services will be deployed using Argo CD. So I think maybe a lot. Maybe we should ask the community to start helping us build a dashboard.
Yeah,
Everybody
combined dashboard.
Yeah, a combined dashboard product. That's a great feature. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's think about it.
Yeah. Right now, the only thing that Argo CD and Argo Workflow have in common is really the name. So I mean, there is some.
And the people.
Yeah. There is some special knowledge built into about workflows, which I'll show you coming up in the Synchooks feature. But really, they're actually completely separate at this point in time. In fact, the way internally at Jenkins, we're using Jenkins to drive our CI, and so that's making calls through the Argo CLI to Argo CD. To do the sync.
But let's think about it, how to build a holistic dashboard.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Because one of our Argo community member is actually even the Kubernetes dashboard contributor, and we don't see much changes to Kubernetes dashboard. So yes, a multi-cluster dashboard is very needed. Okay.
Well, thank you.
I have a question. Do you guys support plain YAMLs for deployment, or just CaseOnIt?
Yes. So CaseOnIt itself has a feature called drop-in YAMLs. So actually, let me show you. So in the Argo CD example apps, I mentioned I have these 4 apps, one of which is SockShop. You might have seen this as a microservices demo. And inside the components directory, all of these YAMLs that you see here I literally just took it from the Git repo and dropped it into this CaseOnIt app. And so CaseOnIt supports this feature of drop-in YAMLs.
Main reason why I'm asking, like, we found, like, in our experience, like, once we're onboarding our teams into Kubernetes and our CI/CD and deployment pipelines, people get really lost in CaseOnIt. So, like, complexity of tracing your YAML output to actual source is not worth it, especially when we do really small amount of customization and try to keep it really straightforward for people. And actually, we prefer to copy things when just like create different permutation. That's why I'm asking. Like, our deployment is usually plain YAMLs, and what we do right now, we just do kubectl apply, like on a server, but it's really similar. So this one looks much prettier what we have. Absolutely. But I'm wondering, like, how we could use what we have. Like, we have directory, like predefined directory structure with stuff, and we just deploy YAML. But this one, this is what it does. It's just like right now it's calling CaseOnIt to generate manifest instead of just using already generated manifests, right?
That's right. Yeah. So we use CaseOnIt as a manifest generator. And
I
can answer this.
Yeah.
So initially, CaseOnIt was supporting only JSONit, and it was actually it looked very complex for a lot of our teams. And actually, Jesse gave that feedback back to the CaseOnIt team. So if you see, then the sock shop, you can just drop in your YAMLs in that same folder structure. What else do you have to do, Jesse?
That's pretty much it. There's a command called CaseImport. CaseImport will take in some existing YAML file, and then it will basically it'll split that YAML file into the individual components of that YAML, and then they'll put it inside this directory.
So you don't have to worry about CaseOnIt using JSONit or libsonit or any of that, because
let me reiterate our worry with actual CaseOnIt itself. Like, I know you just think like it's okay complexity, but we found out it's not. That's why we're just asking how we could kind of sidestep a little bit and just like feed direct YAMLs, because we don't use CaseOnIt for templating. We use our build system for templating. It's and probably you'll find, like, across the board, people will have their own weird way of doing things. But what we found out, like, our developers really don't want to learn CaseOnIt. It's like we were just asking, why should it care when why should it write like 40 lines of JSON or YAML or component stuff and configurations where my YAML file is 20 lines itself. I'm giving you feedback of what I hear from developers, and we're really.
No, I definitely understand where you're coming from. Because that was very similar feedback that I gave back to the CaseOnIt team. So I think things. So I'm not sure if you were aware of the feature. Like, what I'm showing you in the screen is literally just YAML files from the sock shop. So these are just unmodified YAML files that you can drop into a CaseOnIt app, and you don't have to write it as JSONit.
Yes, we do understand, but like we don't want to teach our developers what CaseOnIt app do. Like, this is where I'm coming from, because this is pretty much like one level of abstraction you have between Kubernetes and the rest of things. I know it's probably like not a discussion for community, but I try to provide feedback, because you're assuming CaseOnIt is okay, in our use case not. And like
we can do kind of import on the fly. I mean, even Argo can help with it. We potentially could have it as a feature where someone give us a directory and we generate it. Basically, we hide CaseOnIt.
So Constantine, we understand the concern and we'll take the feedback and maybe somebody will see how we can do that. But today, today it is using the CaseOnIt commands to do the sync, etc. And also we needed something to do the environment folder structure, because using the same YAMLs, we wanted to deploy to multiple environments. See, in a pipeline, using the same YAML and parameterizing by environment, we want to be able to deploy to dev, QA, and production and not have resets.
So, one different of our use case where we don't generate, we generate YAMLs before we get into repository. So pretty much our state of environment as submitted to Kubernetes is committed to Git. It's not something you could generate environment configuration and submit. Like if you see right now, you have, it's not really a state of environment. A state of environment, in what CaseOnIt generated for you for this environment, the only place you could see it in Kubernetes API. It's not in source control.
Yep. Oh, in that case, though, you can also generate the minimum CaseOnIt stuff you need. Your developers don't have to know anything about it.
Yeah, so all right, guys, like we're getting well into the woods, but I just wanted to give our
if we hear the same feedback from more people, Constantine, we have to then look into how to use just vanilla Kubernetes YAML.
So I also
so I propose, I mean, Constantine to generate it, but I'm saying we can generate it as well from the directory. So that is kind of very seems like a good feature.
So
you can assume one environment, one app, and then you basically get a directory of YAMLs, and that is the app.
Okay.
And then you're done basically at that point. There's no parameterization.
Yeah. So I mentioned the parts of CaseOnIt that we use of it is really the manifest generation. So literally what's happening is when we ask the repo server of like, hey, give me the manifest, we run a KS show of that application, and that just spits out, to standard out, a bunch of manifest in YAML format, and then we unmarshal that into like a Kubernetes data structures, then we submit those to Kubernetes. So we're not using the CaseOnIt apply feature of
so if you could sidestep KS show and just get stuff out of directory, we will be golden. We don't ask for anything else.
I do want to mention, we actually have kind of the opposite concern, meaning there were people who were interested in writing their stuff as Helm charts, and so it's not like they have a flat directory of YAML files, but they actually have a Helm chart. And how could we deploy their Helm chart into production? And then one of the problem is being solved for us by CaseOnIt. Like we don't want to build in special knowledge about Helm charts in Argo CD. CaseOnIt is solving that by supporting Helm charts in their application, and we benefit from just doing KS show again, and we don't know that there is a Helm chart inside this CaseOnIt app. It's just we just run KS show and we get the manifest from there.
Yeah, guys, I'm not asking you to change what you're doing. I'm just asking that one more option to skip that. Because it will be like, you will accommodate more use cases this way, not try to force people to.
I agree.
Totally.
This is it. And also, one more question, that would be quick, I believe. Like, right now, UI assumes everything happens manually. So you're rolling back, you start rollout automatically, you're rolling back things manually. And I think it's is our APIs to actually force it, because we roll out automatically.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So I didn't mention this, but everything you saw that I've been doing through the UI, there's a CLI equivalent to that command. Not only that, we have the API server is both a gRPC server, so we have the proto files for all of these API calls that are happening. We also have a Swagger UI for this for the API server. So if you prefer a REST-based interface to Argo CD, you can also do it in that fashion.
No, like we could deal with gRPC. It's not a big deal. This is what we want. Yeah, it's great.
Would we support Autosync at some point where it automatically on push?
Yeah. So and then the other thing you asked about was the kind of this is what you're seeing is all manual. How do we automate it? So two things like internally here at Intuit, a lot of this stuff is automated through the pipeline, through the CLI commands. But one of the features that has yet to be implemented is a feature called Autosync. And the Autosync, the idea behind Autosync is if when we detected that out of sync condition of that guestbook app, we would then go and try to perform a sync automatically when we get out of sync. So that lets you do all your changes to an environment or application through Git rather than these manual steps that I'm showing you through the UI.
Yep.
But yeah,
it's
so I think Autosync is what you're looking for, right?
Yeah, API will do. It's
oh yeah,
still,
API Autosync.
Yeah, it's still going to. It's not a big deal, but overall, yeah, great. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, the last thing I wanted to cover. Do we have time?
4 minutes, because we really want to also cover any other questions around Argo workflow and events. Okay. Okay.
Just really quickly. So one of the new features in Argo CD is the concept of Synchooks. So in the example repository, there's an app called pre-post sync. And the idea behind Synchooks, if you ever use Helm, Helm has the concept of hooks. And a hook lets you kind of interject at certain stages of a deployment, like custom logic that you want to happen. So in this case, for this example, pre-post sync, before I sync the app, I want a Kubernetes job to run, and then after the sync, I also want another Kubernetes job to run. So the way you define that job is going back to pre-post sync. We have components, and I have this post sync job, and it's basically these are simply manifests that live side by side with your application manifest, but it has this special annotation called Argo CD Argo project.io/hook. And in your mind, if you use Helm hooks, just replace Argo CD Argo project.io/hook with helm.sh/hook. And this basically we'll execute this job before we do the sync. If it's successful, we'll proceed to doing the sync. And then on a post-sync job, we'll wait for that application to complete its rollout, become healthy, and then we'll execute the post-sync job. And some of the use cases for this is like if you want a database migration, schema migration to happen prior to the sync, and then after the application has been deployed, you want to run some like integration and health tests, maybe send some type of notification. Those are some of the use cases behind pre and post syncs. Anyways, I'll kick this off, but you can see in the sync pane the fact that I have this job running, and you see the status of this sync job is that it's running the pre-sync hook. My job just sleeps for 10 seconds. Once it finishes this job, it will do the actual sync, which is the kubectl apply, and then it'll move on to the post-sync job once the application is healthy. So we do see that it is deployed, the kubectl apply happened, and the post-sync job is currently waiting for the application to become healthy, and then after it's healthy, it will execute the post-sync job.
Because a lot of people will want to run tests or some other workflow or do database data population, etc. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so that's all I had. I'll briefly mention other features that are supported in Argo CD. We have RBAC. You can control who can log in. You can configure like what OAuth 2 groups have access to what apps, and we provide a next level of organization called projects. Basically, this allows you to group apps in a logical way for your organization. Okay, so that's all I wanted to cover. On the roadmap, we have some upcoming features centered around more security related stuff. We want audit trails to happen basically on all application events, like sync events. We want Kubernetes events for these things. We'll also be adding service account tokens so that your CI pipeline can have a restricted set of privileges of what it can do. Like maybe you want your Jenkins job to only be able to do a sync and nothing else. And then that you can generate a token and give that to a Jenkins pipeline, and that's how you can do deploys.
Okay.
Okay, so thanks.
Any other questions on Argo CD? Okay, we took the feedback. We have 10 minutes. Anybody wants to discuss any feature questions around Argo workflows or Argo events? Somebody?
We did think Argo events was pretty interesting. In our use case, we have this idea that there would be like dependencies between workflows that might also get satisfied from like external input. So basically, what I'm asking with the Argo events design right now is it appears to me that when you set up forgive me, I don't have all the terminology straight in my head. I'm flying blind a little bit. But so you would set up a sensor that had multiple triggers, and whenever a trigger would happen, it would trigger the sensor would occur, which would cause a workflow to happen. Do you have a concept? Maybe I just need to look at the project a little bit more. But do you have a concept where the workflow doesn't get triggered until all of the triggers have fired a first time, like basically a fan-in kind of thing in Argo events? And I'm just missed.
Yeah, so when you create a sensor, you can create multiple triggers, and yes, there is a way where you can have multiple triggers, and the actual action, which is the workflow that needs to execute, will execute only after all the triggers are fired. So there is an example, I believe, of this in the repo where it says that there should be there is an event, for example, an S3 put event and a timer event, and when S3 put happens and after that like a 10-second delay happens, then the workflow will get executed.
So right now it doesn't have, we would need it to have basically either a GitHub status or like our source is stored in GitHub, and we do triggering from there into Travis, and then from Travis we pick it up into our internal systems to deploy this. And so in our ideal use case, either a change to a GitHub status or a change to something within a GitHub repo would be an incoming trigger for this. And so would you recommend that we would fork and implement this functionality, or would you recommend that we attempt to include it in there? Like, what is the intended scope of the different kind of triggers that are in there right now?
So there is a webhook event right now that you could potentially use where GitHub sends a webhook to the Kubernetes cluster to some endpoint, and that webhook then triggers the workflow. That's one option. But otherwise, if there is something specific about the GitHub event which is not a webhook, then yeah, I mean, feel free to file a GitHub issue, or like you would love to get more contributions.
Okay, so just in that, if we were nervous about getting the logic right the first time, and we tried to do it with the webhook, your suggestion would be then that the way we structured our workflow, the first step in that workflow would basically be parsing the semantic meaning of what that webhook was to figure out what to do next. Is that what we have to do?
Yeah, so there is a little bit of work in progress there. Actually, the part that is also missing right now is that the actual payload of the event. So in this case, let's say the GitHub event sent a webhook, but the actual payload doesn't get passed to the controller or to the actual event handler. So that is something that is also a little bit in the works. In fact, someone just asked this question today morning on the Argo events Slack channel about the fact that the payload is needed. So this is something that we need to do. So in order to parse the event and then make sense out of what happened, that is something that would be needed. But yeah, this is something in the works. Some of us, we're still getting used to this. Is Matt or Weber from BlackRock, are they on the call?
Not today.
Oh, okay, because they would have more insights onto this. But yeah, this is something that we are looking into right now. But yeah, let's discuss this maybe over Slack about maybe prioritizing this. This is something important. Even we have a use case where we want to run a CI workflow, a continuous integration workflow based on a GitHub event right now. But yeah, right now we are doing some of that ourselves, but we'll probably need to do it as part of the event itself.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll hit you up in Slack. Thank you very much.
Yeah, sure.
Anything else? Okay.
All right.
Then
yeah, I encourage you guys to try Argo CD out and give feedback. Like Konstantin gave great feedback. Any usability or things, wish list stuff that you want. I'll actually be kind of switching gears and trying to address the backlog of Argo workflow stuff that's been accumulating. So I think starting next week, I'll be able to start addressing the workflow backlog.
And also, we will demo this in the Kubernetes AppSig. So we'll see what feedback we get from there end of this month. But thanks for all the feedback. And anybody else who wants to sign up in the list of users, please open a pull request. We need to grow the community. That's all. And if anybody wants to co-submit a KubeCon paper, please Slack me on the Slack channel. Otherwise, I'm going to ping some of you that I know. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.